National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.
Hi, my name is Anil Lewis. I'm the Executive Director of Blindness Initiatives for the National Federation of the Blind, the most transformative membership organization of blind Americans. The unemployment rate of blind Americans has hovered around 70% for decades. The root remains the fears and misconceptions that people have around the capacity of blind people and the lack of knowledge around the tools that blind people use to be competitive every day. Through this series, we hope to educate both blind job seekers and employers about the variety of different careers that blind people are actively pursuing today and the tools and strategies they use to be competitive on the job. We're hoping that this will help put a dent in the unemployment rate and create greater opportunities for blind people. So let's take a look at where the blind work.
The National Federation of the Blind advances the lives of its members and all blind people in the United States. We know that blindness is not the characteristic that defines you or your future. Every day we work to raise expectations because low expectations create obstacles between blind people and our dreams. It is our collective power, determination, and diversity that achieves aspirations for all blind people. And with that, I would like to welcome you all to our July Where the Blind Work webinar, where we will be highlighting blind professionals who are frontline workers. Thanks everyone for joining us. My name is Nikki Jackson. I serve as the Employment Program Coordinator for the National Federation of the Blind, and I'm so happy to be with you all this evening. And we have an amazing panel here to chat with you all this evening. So some good things in store. Before we get started though, I'd like to go over a few housekeeping rules before we get into the meat and the potatoes of all this. So first and foremost, please remain on mute as our presenters are sharing all about what they do this evening. We will try to have time to answer questions closer to the end of the webinar. When we provide that opportunity, please raise your hand before coming off mute and let us acknowledge you, and then we will give you the opportunity to ask your question. If you are called upon to ask your question, please, please, please ask only one question because we want to try to give everyone an opportunity to answer questions if we have time. If we don't get to your questions, I encourage you to email us at employment@nfb.org. That's employment@nfb.org. And we will be able to reach out to our panelists this evening and get your questions answered rather. The other piece I would like to share is that directly after this Zoom meeting ends, you all will be or have access to a link to a survey. I encourage you all to go and take that survey. Give us your thoughts about how you liked tonight's webinar, what you learned, and what you would like to see. What careers would you like to see highlighted during these webinars or during these events? Finally, we do have the captioning on for folks who need it, so please refer to that. And if you run into any issues, you can always email me at employment@nfb.org, and we will try to get that resolved or issue resolved as quickly as we can. So with that being said, now that we have all of the housekeeping items out of the way, I'd like to introduce you all to our wonderful panelists. So our first panelist hails from the Big Apple, New York City. He works for the company Magellan Solutions as a switchboard operator and has a lot to share with you all this evening. So everyone, please give a warm virtual welcome to Mr. Terry Hall.
Thank you, Nikki. Can everyone hear me?
Loud.
Can everyone hear me?
I can speak up. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, thank you again, Nikki, for inviting me to the this webinar. So as Nikki said, I do hail originally from New York City. Brooklyn. I do work at Magellan Solutions, which is a third party contracted company who works with the VA hospital along with other companies. I have been a switchboard operator there for a little more than a year. April 1st, 2024 was my first day of employment there. My journey kind of comes full circle because I was born and raised in New York City and went to regular public school there, got my high school diploma, got my associate's degree. Then, I was attempting to go for my bachelor's, but life happens, and I ended up getting married for some reason and raising two beautiful daughters. At the middle age, my late as I became an adult, I worked for a utility company called National Grid out here in New York, which as a customer service representative in their call center. I did that for about 11 and a half years. And then somewhere in my late 30s, I realized that I wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied with my job. I mean, the work was challenging. That wasn't the issue. The pay was good, but I just felt like I was stuck. I didn't feel like I was going to grow any further. And then I met my wife, Sarah, who had just moved to Baltimore and was working at Blind Industries and Services of Maryland as a summer youth counselor, working with blind teenagers and showing them that they can do whatever they wanted with the proper skills and training. And I said, you know what? Maybe something I need. So I moved to Baltimore in 2014, and I went for my own training a year later at BISM. Nikki was one of my instructors at the time, and so was Liz, who you'll meet later. And I was nervous. It was definitely something new and challenging and scary at first. But I think being around them and all the people I met while I was in Baltimore, even before I went to training, gave me the confidence to not be afraid to pick up my cane and just get out and just go, just explore, do. Don't be afraid. And the training just enhanced skills that I either had and needed to improve on, or built upon stuff that I was lacking in. I eventually got a job teaching cane travel to senior adults in 2016 at BISM. I did that for 2.5 years. Then an opportunity came about for myself and my wife, Sarah, at the Iowa Department of the Blind in Des Moines, Iowa, which was a little scary because Iowa's, anything about Iowa in the Midwest, it's not the East Coast. It's a lot slower. The culture's a little different. So I was nervous. And I went out there and I started the job. And unfortunately, things didn't work out the way I would have wanted. Disappointing. And I was a little down for a little while. But I said, you know what? I'm either gonna stay down forever, or I'm gonna pick myself up. And I decided I wanted to go back to school and finish my bachelor's degree. So once I went back to the department to brush up on my computer skills and everything else needed for school, I went back to school at Graham University in 2021. And I graduated my bachelor's degree in human services in April of 2023. But I still wasn't satisfied. Iowa was just not home for me. I made it, I survived it as best I could, but it just was not for me. So I was looking for jobs and apartments out here in New York. I wanted to come home. And a friend of mine had told me that they needed people at the VA hospital as switchboard operators, and because I had customer service experience, and she connected me with someone that I hadn't talked to in 10 years, who was the lead operator. I went for my interview February of 2024, and I was hired on about 3 weeks later, March of 2024, and I moved back to New York. I was staying with a friend until I got my apartment situation straightened out. So the job, basically, it's not just it is answering. Most of the job is answering inbound calls, whether from within the hospital or outside the hospital, transferring patients or employees to different departments within the hospital. That's the basics, but there's more to that. We have to make announcements as necessary, whether it's events, or if we need to page someone, or if we have to. If you ever watched a medical drama, and you ever seen, like they say, code red, code blue, we have to call out those type of codes when someone from a department says, "Oh, we have a situation, we have rapid response, we have a stroke, whatever." We have to make those announcements over the PA system to get the right people to the right areas. We also have to create an on, we have to find out who's on call for the different departments. Whether and we have to create our own call list and post it so that way during certain, the day and evening hours, if a doctor or nurse says, I need the oncologist on call, we can look on the on-call list and say, okay, who's on call? Oh, it's a pager, and we page them for them, and they give us the extension, or we call them directly through their cell phones. So it's very challenging. It's a 24-hour, 365-day operation. So if it's one person, someone always has to be in the office because you never know when a situation may occur, and you have to track down the right parties. Sometimes if we have a hard time tracking down the parties, we may have to reach out to the hospital administrator, and they can assist us in finding who needs to be found. It's it can be a little stressful because patients get frustrated if we're transferring to departments and the people aren't answering the phones because they're busy with other patients, and we're like, well, why are they answering the phones? And we have to say, sir, ma'am, unfortunately, we're not sure. We're not in that department. Maybe handling other calls. Do you want to hang on a few minutes, or do you want to call back? But if it gets to the point where the patients are just irate, we may have to refer them to a patient advocate, and they can, express their displeasure, concerns, even a compliment. They may get compliments too, but we're the initial contact for the hospital, so we have to give a good impression because once they get past us, they're dealing with the interior. We're the first faces that they hear when they call in. So how we present ourselves will go a long way to how they see the rest of the hospital in most cases. I usually work my shift kind of varies, especially now because someone resigned a few weeks ago. So now I usually work the day shift or the midday shift, but it may vary from week to week. It just depends on how my supervisor puts up the schedule. And so, for instance, this weekend, one of my coworkers is dealing with family emergency. So I was off today, and I was supposed to be going into work tomorrow morning and Saturday morning. But because this coworker is dealing with a family situation, my supervisor called me and asked me if I could work the overnight shift tomorrow night and Saturday night, which was was the C shift. So we have an A shift, was the A shift in the morning from 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m., the B shift in the afternoon from 3:30 p.m. to midnight, and then the C shift from midnight to 8. So the C shift, we're the ones who you take calls for you that come in, but we also have to create the on-call list to post for the next day. So we let our colleagues know who's on call for a particular department. And that's pretty much nuts and bolts of what my job requires of it. There's about 8 of us in total, and we all work different. There's more people in the morning than there are in the afternoon and night because the morning is the busiest time of the day.
Well, thank you, Terry, for sharing. And we'll have an opportunity to dive a little bit deeper once we get through our introductions. But thank you for
Okay,
that.
thank you, Nikki.
No problem. All right, so our next presenter hails from the state of Maryland. She works as a teaching assistant at a organization called Chimes. I'd like to welcome you all, or not welcome, but I'd like to introduce you all to, oh my gosh, English, Nikki, to Elizabeth Moyer. Everyone give her a warm virtual welcome.
Hi, everyone. Hope everything's going well with everybody tonight or this evening. Nikki, thank you for the invite to join and kind of talk about what I do. And also, I thank you all for the applause. I can hear it over the line. It's great. So my work career has been very interesting. I'm one of the people that lost their vision later in life. I lost my vision at 27. So before I lost my vision, my career was in theater. So I worked in New York doing Broadway theater stage work, so like stage management, lighting design, sound design. But also I left that and started doing EMT firefighter work, working for Baltimore County and Baltimore City doing firefighting. And that's when I lost my vision during that time when I was doing EMT firefighting work. Okay. So again, I didn't know what to do and I went to get training. I found out about a training center. I went to Blind Industries and Services of Maryland and I got my training from them. I also have a degree in theater from CCBC and Montclair State University. Um, so after that, after I got my training, I got offered an opportunity to teach at Blind Industries and Services of Maryland, and I was their woodshop instructor. So I taught blind children all the way up to seniors how to use power tools and build things, but I also co-taught in independent living and helped out in all the other classes as well. So that would be Braille technology, um, travel as well on the core side and the senior side, as well as the youth side of the program. Um, After that, I was there for 10 years doing that. You know, it's long days, but it's all rewarding. And I needed a change. I wanted to do something different. So that's when I applied to Chimes to be a teaching assistant. And so far, it's been very rewarding. I get to work with a bunch of great kids. And Chimes is a school that works with kids who have autism and also behavioral issues. So they're learning or having difficulty dealing with their emotions or sometimes understanding information, and it comes out sometimes in ways that may be a little aggressive, so as far as hitting, spitting, biting, things like that. But they're great kids, they're very smart kids, and every day it's just a rewarding experience and it's just fun for me. I love helping and giving back, and I feel like throughout my whole time working in any career, it's always been to help people and bring some kind of joy. So that's what I have so far, and you'll find out more about me when we talk further into the night. Nice to meet everybody virtually.
Awesome. Thanks, Liz. All right, so I just want to make sure that this is the correct Tom. Tom, did you make it on or make it in the Zoom? Are you here? If you are, please unmute. If you are the Tom that is presenting this evening, because I see you're here. I see you're here.
Let me see if I can get him to unmute.
Okay. Thank you all for your patience. We all know technology likes to behave the way that it wants to.
So Tom, I made you a co-host. You should be able to unmute with Alt-A.
All right. So, Tom, welcome. So everyone, for our final panelist or speaker for this evening, this individual hails from the great state of Minnesota. They currently work as a concession stand attendant for Target Field and Target Center. And I'm not gonna lie. Oh no, I think he left. Oh no, I think he got dropped. I hope he did not.
Yes, Tom has
Yeah,
left the
I think he
building.
got dropped. Okay, all right. So, guys, hopefully Tom will join us again, but really cool job that Tom has. And I really hope he has an opportunity to hop back on and share about what he does with you all. But until he returns, so Liz and Liz and Terry, do you mind if we kind of get into some questions so our participants can learn more about you and what you do?
Let's go.
And Tom is back.
Not at all.
Okay, well, while Tom is getting set up, we'll go ahead and go through some questions. So both of you all, like, you all shared about your experience of going through getting structured discovery training and getting, you know, some blindness skills under your belt. And then you both had careers in the rehabilitation field, but then decided you wanted to do something different. What made you apply to the specific jobs that you have now? Like, why did you want to go into the field of a switchboard operator, Terry, and for Liz, why did you want to work with children? What were
You want to
your
go first,
reasons for
Liz?
that? And
I can go.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, what made me apply was one, I love helping people. I love kids. They're just a ball of energy and a ball of fun, and they help me get my steps in. But a lot of my skills that I have and that I've gained visually and non-visually are transferable. So even though I didn't match 100% of the criteria, most of my skills were transferable. So, such as, using the computer, such as being organized, such as teaching, such as, being able to, retain information and feedback, give that information back. Like a lot of my skills that I have were transferable. So, I saw the opportunity where most of my skills can be used in this position. I love teaching. I love helping kids. I love helping people. Why don't I go for it? And that's what maybe got me, or pretty much got me to apply. And it's not a blindness specific field either, but again, those transferable skills, I believe, helped me get the job, is that I had the skills that they needed and could do the work.
And as for me, that being a switchboard operator was not my first job that I applied to. I was at the time when I applied for that job, I had just had an interview at a place called City out here in New York, which stands for Centers for Individuals with Disabilities in New York, and I was applying to be a peer advocate as basically a counselor working with senior adults, trying to help them get back who were turning either in nursing homes or rehab facilities, and try to get them the services they need in order to return to the into the community. A friend of mine who had worked at the VA had said they need people there. You want to consider hiring? I said, you know what? Why not? It can't hurt. The more jobs you apply for, the more opportunities you may have. You don't want to sell yourself short. But what also got me into it as well is my transferable skills. I had done customer service, call center work for over a decade prior. So even though it's switchboard upgraded, the tasks as far as you're not on the phone with with the patients or customers as long as I was when I worked for the utility company, you still have to be polite. You still have to be courteous. I still have to know how to use a computer and navigate their programs. So it's not a blind isolated job either. But as Liz stated, my skills as being a people person, wanting to help people, being in customer service were transferable. I just had to learn the specific duties of that job. But the skills themselves, the soft skills transferred from even working with seniors. I had to be, teaching cane travel. That's still somewhat quote unquote customer service because you're providing a service to a clientele. So unfortunately, the other job at City didn't work out, but this job did. And here I am, a year and 4 months later.
nice. So I do have a question for both of you all, because again, you mentioned you're not working in blindness related fields. What was the process like for applying for these jobs, right? Did you face any accessibility challenges? And if so, how did you problem solve around those challenges?
I
Oh,
can, I can, oh, go ahead, Liz.
no, go for it. Go for it, Terry.
Okay. So with this job, even though it's not a bladed field, there are I have other blind coworkers. Not all of them are blind, but so they already had a system in place where they had JAWS and a magnification program ready in their computer system. So that was pretty easy. I was fortunate where I didn't have to worry about having to explain what I needed, what tools, like what kind of software I would need to help me complete the task because it was already in place, and it had been there for many years because blind people have worked at the VA at that hospital for a long time, even though it was a different company prior to this, but the lead operator who I've known for a long time, he's legally blind, so it was the transition. Fortunately for me, was not difficult at all as far as that goes.
Okay, I'll go. For me, it was actually the opposite. So the application process was easy, the interview process was easy, minus a couple of things that I needed to sign, which in the beginning they asked if you have any disabilities. I put blind, and of course they didn't have any accessible documents that I could read to sign. But luckily, the lady who did my interview was kind enough to read the documents to me so I could sign it. As far as onboarding and things like that, it was very difficult. I got hired, and then we had a week of training, and none of the tests and things were accessible. And ahead of time, they asked me what accessibility things I needed, and I told them. They're like, "Oh, it's accessible." But that's the thing. In most places that don't know anything about blindness, their idea of accessibility doesn't necessarily match what we need as far as accessibility. So they're like, "Oh, yeah, it's accessible." It's like, yeah, I'm on the website. It only reads the menus. It doesn't read what's happening on the screen. It doesn't read the test that I need to take. It doesn't read this, that, and the other thing. So it was a long process. A training that should have taken a week, it took me about almost 2.5 months. I just finished one of my trainings maybe a week and a half ago, because they literally got somebody to listen to it, type everything out in a Word document, email it to me. I had to read that and then submit the answers to the test in a written Microsoft Word document. So they're still learning about how to make things accessible where I work. But I do appreciate that mostly they're open to it and want to understand what I need to be successful. But it's definitely been a process and getting them to understand what accessibility means for me, and not just a, what do you want to call it, a out the box kind of accessibility thing, like, oh well, it can read the menu, isn't that enough, kind of thing. So yeah, it's been a fight, but it's been a good fight because they're learning a lot, and I'm learning more and more and more about advocating and how to advocate in ways of plain English so people can really understand, because they really didn't understand what a screen reader was, and I had to, explain it to them but also show them, and it kind of helped it click for them as well. So it's been rewarding, even though it's been a fight a little bit. Yeah.
Thank you for that. And I know you both coming from fields where when you're working in the blindness field, especially in a rehabilitation center, sometimes accessibility is something that you don't really have to worry about. Like, you don't have to really worry about requesting reasonable accommodations as it relates to your blindness. But to have to go into a new field, where you are maybe sometimes the only blind person working, that looks a little different in that space. So thank you for sharing that. But just to kind of dig a little deeper around reasonable accommodations and accessibility, like, what accessibility challenges have you faced on the job itself beyond the onboarding and the training, if any? And then how have you worked to really, or how have you collaborated with your employer to figure out reasonable accommodations and really work to make things more accessible so that you can perform your job successfully?
All right, I'll go. So so it's definitely been challenging because a lot of the software that we use in the school is not accessible. They use smart boards, and smart boards are the worst when it comes to being blind, for teaching. Also, with my school, we use a lot of written paperwork. So each of the students have a behavioral sheet, and it's done in paper, for a reason. They still haven't explained the reason, but to them it makes sense. So I'm going to do what needs to be done. But you have to check box when they have a behavior. So maybe an aggression or a verbal aggression or a physical aggression or biting and things like that. And they want it like a tally mark. So if you get four sticks and you put the slash through the fifth, so forth and so on. But for me, that doesn't help me at all because I can't see it. Or they may have paperwork that they give to the students to do, math work and things like that. And it's not accessible. They don't have a digital format of it. So it's kind of me trying to figure out what's going on. But for me, in each classroom, you're kind of your own team. So for me, my team is team 116. That's the class I am in right now, because that's going to change soon. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I work with a great group of people. The main teacher, I'm one of the teaching assistants, but I also work as a one-to-one. So if the teacher's not there, I am the teacher, but I also help her with like attendance, behavioral sheets, helping the students with different things. And she's really good about asking what I need and how can we make this accessible. So like, we came up with a way to use the iPad where I can digitally mark a student's behaviors, and then she writes it into the chart later on at the end of the day. We've come up with ways for me to tactile, make like games that we play with the kids, educational games, tactile. She's learned about drawing tactile boards. She's very open and willing to work with me to make things accessible. Now, they're next year in September, they want to change me to another class. And this is one of the things that I'm working through right now. They're moving me to a class with a new teacher who doesn't have any idea about blindness or accessibility. So it's kind of me starting all over again, like I started with the onboarding on how do we make this class accessible so I can successfully do my job and actually be here to help you and not just be here. Because, you know, again, I have to help out with all the paperwork I have to, but they don't have the technology. They don't have an iPad for that classroom yet because I use the iPad in that classroom 116, and they have to get a iPad for each classroom. So they're still trying to figure out how to get an iPad. They're still trying to figure out how to make things accessible. They're still trying to make sure that they have me in an area or let me navigate the area before I even get to that area. So it's a lot of working with them and kind of being patient because they just don't know. And it's me constantly working with them and constantly saying, that's not going to work. This is what I need. And this is why I need it. And, you know, kind of showing them and making sure they understand why this is important that I have this accommodation. And yeah, it gets tiring. Yeah, my mouth gets dry. But, you know, that's the only way it's going to happen is if I keep working with them and having some grace. Because again, if you don't know, I am the only blind employee in the teaching side that they've ever had. So they're learning a lot, I feel like, from me being there, but I'm also learning a lot again about how to tell them what I need and figuring out what I need because I've never used a smart board at a when I worked at Blind Industries, you know, it's blindness training. We don't really use smart boards like that, except in college, you know, with college prep where they talk about how to get around some of the challenges, but it's different as you using it as a student versus using it as a teacher. It's different programs, it's different ways to navigate, it's different ways you have to set up the lessons and things like that. And that stuff is not accessible. So coming up with different ways for me to be creative to navigate those challenges as well, because sometimes I don't know how to even combat that, but it's me figuring out and using, you know, my smarts and trying things to make it accessible for me and my students. Because even my students, they're kids and they know I'm blind and they know how to make things accessible. I taught them how to make things accessible so I can help them with certain things. So it's just, again, about being proactive about what you need in that workspace.
Thanks for that. Terry, what about you?
Okay, it's not so much with the work itself. It's not the issue because I use both JAWS and magnification, and because I know when one works better at certain times and when it doesn't. The biggest issue is when we've had some trainings being sent to us either by the VA hospital itself or by our parent company Magellan's, and sometimes part of the trainings that we've had to do, every part is not always doesn't always read JAWS. So I can read some of the stuff on my magnification, but after a while, if my eyes start to get tired, I need JAWS to help read it for me. But if they're like illustrations or pictures or graphics, then a lot of times I couldn't get through it without a coworker, you know, assisting me, showing me where certain things were and helping me click on certain issues. So that was an issue, and it's not just me who had to deal with that. As I said before, there's about 2 or 3 other you know blind coworkers, 2 or 3 other, and some of them can, one can get by it without using JAWS. He's fine with his magnification, but the other 2 are totally blind and they need JAWS. So when they got to points where it wasn't reading stuff, we had to rely on our sighted colleagues to kind of help us through, which could be frustrating because like we don't want to make it seem like, oh, they don't know what we don't want the company thinking, oh, we have these people here, they don't know what they're doing. But if your material is not accessible, it's hard to navigate. So that's probably where the biggest frustration was with some of the trainings that we had to complete.
Thanks for that, Terry. Really quickly, I just want to pause for a second. Was Tom able to hop back on? I saw him come in a
Tom
few
has
times
come
and
on and
leave.
off several times and has never been able to unmute.
All right. Okay, we will move on. So, um, question for you both. So, I know you all have talked a lot about the technology that you've used. Liz, you talked about using the iPad, how you all have made games tactile so you're able to engage with the students. Terry, you've talked about using JAWS and Zoom text. Are there any other tools or skills that you all use to complete tasks on your job every day?
I mean, I just pretty much use JAWS and the magnification because I'm pretty much on the, just I don't, there aren't any documents we necessarily have to read. It's, we have to, we send emails, but, or receive emails, but it's not, and stuff that had to be signed at the beginning, like paperwork, my supervisor would read me the documents and then he would show me where to sign. But other than that, for me, it's just pretty basic, just JAWS and the magnification to do my work.
For me, it's of course using iPad with voiceover, using JAWS, using narrator sometimes because again, they still don't understand what screen readers are at my job. So, sometimes you're stuck with narrator. Um, as well as other tools. Sometimes I use my iPhone. I need to be my eyes and things like that to read a student's writing when they're working on paperwork to help understand if they're writing the correct answer. And then me and the primary teacher kind of go over those sheets before we start, but I also need to check their answers. So I know what the sheets are asking, I know what order they're in, but it's just knowing what the students wrote. So it's using like my iPhone would be my eyes, my meta frames. And then other things that we use in the class are things that are just fun. So like building blocks and counting blocks and bubbles and things like that. Cause I work with kindergarten through third grade. So it's a lot of fun. So it's pretty much your basic technology things outside of hand coordination things. So like again, like pencils and pens, like how to correctly hold one, working with them, writing letters and that sort of thing. And I show them how I would use a line identifier to write on a line and things like that. So they're learning how to use non-visual accessibility things being cited, and I'm learning how to use some of the toys that I've never heard of before. But it's pretty much your basic technology things right now that are alive in my classroom. Like everything is very technology based, except like worksheets for paperwork. So yeah.
Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention, Nikki, is that
Mhm.
every time we have an app called ADP Mobile, which we have to sign into every day to clock in and clock out, and we check our pay, our vacation time and our pay stubs and all that stuff. You can read it that way, and that app is pretty accessible. We also have to use it because sometimes we have to. Magellan may send us something like for the employee, like the employee handbook, and we have to agree that we understand the terms, and you have to just read through that. And I use my iPhone and VoiceOver to read through those documents, and then I can just click on accept or I understand whatever, and then click on the checkbox. So that's every once in a while we need that for you need maybe use your iPhone to get through that to navigate that process. Sorry, I forgot to mention that before.
So, oh no, you're fine. You're fine. So, to add on to this question about you all talked about the tools. So, about the skills, how important was it? And Terry, you can probably really talk to this specifically because you were employed before you went to an adult center, adjustment to blindness skills training, and then you got a job after that. How has receiving training impacted success on the job for you? How has that played a role in your success?
Well, not only in my job but also in school. I know, like before, I didn't know how to advocate for myself. I wasn't very good at so when I worked at National Grid at the time, my vision was at the point where I didn't know JAWS. I used Zoom text, and I also used a closed circuit television to read documents. But I remember there was an incident where I had to a training for for my job, and the documents everything was things weren't ready. Things weren't set up, and I couldn't do training at the time with everyone else with some of my other colleagues. And I was a little upset with that. And I spoke to the call center manager, and we had a conversation, and he said, he appreciates me wanting. I said, it's not a matter of whether wanting to or not wanting to. It's a matter if this is part of my job requirement, I need to do it, but I also need to do it I need this way. But the training helped me understand what I needed and how to ask for it. Being able to explain to a professor, being able to explain to an employee what Zoom text is, what JAWS is, what Magnifier is, what this tool is, what that tool does. I had the confidence because of my adjustment to blindness training, to speak up for myself and not be ashamed or be afraid or be embarrassed to ask for reasonable accommodations to help me complete the tasks in a timely manner.
Thanks. What about you, Liz? Oh, Liz, you are on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that, everyone. So for me, I'm going to piggyback off of what Terry said. Definitely how to advocate and ask for what you need and how to ask for it in a way that people understand. But I think for me, training definitely taught me more deeply how to problem solve because you would be in situations where you just want the answer and they're just like you have what you need to figure it out, take the time and work through those steps and try to figure it out. And like Terry said, you know knowing where jaws will work with one thing and NVDA will work with another, or where jaws will work with one thing and narrator, like how to problem solve those things. And I think for me, knowing, they gave me the opportunity to know what's out there as far as what technology is out there, what programs are out there, how to deal with certain things with technology and accessibility. And that's helped me kind of grow and move on to where I am now because I can use those things, kind of know what's out there, know how to use them to navigate, to problem solve, and kind of be successful. So, yeah, definitely the problem solving and, how to advocate for what I need.
I agree with 100% on that one. Definitely teach you how to problem solve because the answer is not going to always be right in front of you. You may have to go search for the answer and figure and try things to see if this works, if this doesn't work.
And you also have to create the answer sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to transition for a minute, and I would like to ask you all what has been the rewarding part of your jobs? What are the things that maybe you've done that you've been proud of? And I know you all have, man, it seems like you all are in alignment. You've only been there around the same time. Terry, 4 months, and Liz, I think
No,
maybe
a year and
6.
4 months. No, a year and 4
Oh, a
months.
year and 4 months. Okay,
Yes.
okay. Sorry, I only heard the 4 months. Okay,
No,
well,
that's
either
okay.
way, the question
Yeah.
still stands. What's the most rewarding part of your job?
You want to go, Liz?
Sure, I'll go. For me, it's working with the kids and seeing them reach goals that they even didn't think they could reach. Working with the kid who gets very frustrated because he doesn't understand a math problem and can't really communicate that well. So instead of saying I'm struggling with this math problem, it's him, throwing a computer or trying to bite me or hit me, and kind of watching him grow and realizing, just saying, hey, I need help, and understanding that communication can be done in other ways, and just watching the kids grow and learn. And, that's very rewarding for me. Also, watching where I work kind of start to understand and kind of ask questions about accessibility because, again, like I said, I'm the first blind employee on the teaching side that they've ever had. And I feel like by me going through this struggle, I'm helping other folks kind of get a foot in the door. And I'm just grateful that they're open to wanting to make things accessible and wanting to make things equal, to give everybody an equal shot in being employed and working with these wonderful kids. So for me, it's kind of full circle. Just being where I am, like I leave work with a smile on my face. I go to work with a smile on my face. And like I said, by 10 a.m., I've gotten 10,000 steps in. So it's definitely an active day, but it's definitely worthwhile to me.
And for me, it's just very simple. Just been able to answer the callers' questions as best I can if I can answer it, and if not, directing them to the parties who can answer it. And even some of them just call and say, "Hey, operator 21, that's my operator number because we don't give our names. I just want to thank you for your service. Just thank you for something as simple as that. And that may not seem like a lot, but just to get a veteran to say thank you. And I have to say, no, thank you for your service because you put your life at risk for me to be here. But just, I mean, it sounds silly or simplistic, but it's nice to be appreciated.
Sure. Well, thank you both for sharing the rewarding parts of your job. So I definitely want to carve out some time for our participants to ask some questions because I feel like they are probably going to have a few. But I want to ask you all this. A lot of sometimes blind people are not necessarily encouraged to really apply for those, what we would call those frontline jobs, those essential jobs, those more hands-on type of career fields. What would be your advice to those individuals who are considering applying for those roles, those jobs?
Don't be afraid. Know your value, know your worth, know what you can offer the company as well as what the company can offer you. Know your skills. Know yourself.
All right, I'll go. Again, to piggyback off of Terry, know what you can bring to the table, and anything else you can learn. And that's the thing, knowing that you can learn other parts of the job or other tasks, and you can make those things accessible to where you need them. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do that, because you can. It's just having the courage to fight for it. If you want to try it, go for it. You have nothing to lose. And again, you may be opening doors for others. You may be discovering something new that you thought you would never enjoy. And you just got to go for it. Definitely.
Yep. You only fail if you don't try.
Very PBS of you, Terry.
Huh?
Um, so I did see, but Anil, what we can do is we can open the floor up for questions, and if Tom just happens to hop on,
Okay. But before you
we
do, though,
can.
I have a question. I'm going to take privilege of host. You
Oh yeah,
guys
for
talked
sure.
about all those logistics, but I'm curious about the interpersonal dynamics. How have you had any problems working with your colleagues, or if you how have you, or if you have or haven't, how have you set the tone to work collaboratively in that environment with other sighted people? Does your blindness impact your ability to interact with your colleagues?
Is this for me or for Liz?
Both of you.
Both of
Oh, um, for the most part, when in my career and here as well, that's not an issue. I mean, that's not an issue. Fortunately, except for maybe one person, but not that he couldn't rap, but I don't think he knew, like, he's putting it nice. He may not have the best. He's very blunt with how he asks questions, and sometimes, and he may forget that some of us are legal blind and can't see as well or at all, and we have to try to remind him. But he's gotten better over the months since he's been here, but for the most part, all the others who were there ahead of me, very welcome, very friendly. Very very willing to work with us if we need it. But they're very opening, and we learn from them as much as they learn from us, which I think is great. If you can learn from if you can teach each other or your colleagues, it becomes, you work as a team, and the operation becomes more successful, in my opinion.
Okay, so for me, it's been in my classroom. So again, I'm Team 116 all day. It's been great because me and my coworkers, so it's a teacher and another teaching assistant, as well as a one-to-one. And I feel like we communicate very well. We have morning meetings every morning to see what the day is going to look like, and we kind of discuss the steps and what needs to be done. And I give how I need to have it done so I can teach that part or work with the student and on a certain thing. But outside of that class, I've run into some issues. So like yet last night or today we had our sneaker ball, but last night we decorated for the sneaker ball for the kids. And I volunteered to help decorate and things like that. And I found out that the principal was afraid to offend me about what I could do there. But during the night, like for the first hour, I was just kind of doing little things. But then I was asking, so what are we doing right now? Oh, we're hanging up this and this. I just took the leap forward. So for me, handling things is talking about it. It's like, okay, so you can ask me. I'd rather you ask me than assume, because I can give you the correct information on what I need. But also, I just like to go and do. So we're hanging things. I just started hanging things. I'm like, oh, where are we hanging it? Over here? And she was like, oh, you hung it up. I did. You said it was going here, and I just hung it up, So for me, I think it's kind of taking that initiative and showing them that I am capable, because again, I'm their first blind employee and they have no clue what to expect, no clue how to help. And also, I meant to say before, they also have a couple of blind students who they don't know about the technologies to help them. So I'm also helping to give information on how to help those students be more successful. Um, but they just don't know. They just don't know. And it's having the grace to have that conversation. And it may be hard for them, because I can talk about my blindness all day, every day. I live this. I have no problem talking about it. But they may be uncomfortable because they may have interacted with somebody who did not have the best attitude or did not want to answer questions, which is, their choice. But for me, I'm an open book. And I feel like conversation is definitely a big part of getting through those things, those barriers, but also just doing it. It's like what needs to be done and doing it in the way that I know how to do it to get it done. So yeah.
So I believe if I'm successful, everyone should be able to unmute themselves if they have questions. I know one individual raised their hand but lowered it. But you should be able to unmute yourself if you have a question.
I think there's.
Oh,
go
sorry.
ahead.
Hello.
No, don't be sorry.
If
So
you
let's
could
take
state,
one
if you
person
could
at a
state your,
time.
yeah, if you could state your name, then Nikki can identify you and let you ask your question.
Andrew Harmon.
Andrew. All right. What's your question?
So, I'm especially interested in Liz's answer to this, but I would love to know from both of you, what is the biggest pitfall you encountered during the interview process and how did you overcome it?
Okay, so for me, the biggest pitfall is, again, the accessibility thing during the interview process, because for me, I like to be upfront and honest about my disability of being blind, because some things may come up in the interview that I may not be able to do. So they may say, hey, I want you to read this and tell me what you think about this scenario and things. And if I don't tell them, for me, that I'm blind, I may run into a bigger issue, because they're like, oh, I didn't know. And, but I think for me, it's just the accessibility, just making sure things were clear enough and accessible enough so I could read it and sign it and that sort of thing. But the interview process was pretty smooth. I had 2 interviews over the phone, and then my last interview was in person, where we just talked about, working with kids and, just the basic questions. Where do you see yourself in 5 years and things like that? And it's just, I feel like just being yourself. But for me, the pitfall would definitely be accessibility. But again, for me, it's just working through it, because I'm there first, and it's definitely going to be a struggle, but I have the patience to help overcome those and to help both of us grow in that process. So yeah.
For me, it wasn't really a pitfall, but answering the questions about how do I handle stress, dealing with stressful situations. What do you do if someone's calling you, cursing at you, and yelling at you, screaming? How do you handle that? Because that can happen, and you have to be able to look at the situation and say, hey, they're not upset with you. It's easy. It's easy to get up. It's easy to get up. That you may think they are, but then have to do it. There's something maybe happening in the day. They're upset with a circumstance. They may not like the service they've been getting, and you're the first contact that they get when they call the hospital. So whatever they've been dealing with, they're gonna lash out at you, and you just have to learn to try to calm them down, talk them to the ledge, and help them the best way you can until you can, pass them along to someone who can help them even further.
Thank you.
Well, I'm listening.
Hello. This is Rachel
Right.
Buenaventura.
So they say your name again. I'm sorry.
Rachel Buenaventura.
Rachel.
Yes.
Hey,
Hey,
what's
Miss
your
Nikki.
question?
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. My question is because I am a graduate student and getting into student teaching, so I just want to ask the tools that Miss Lee's use for the tactile things and for taking down notes, or I mean like charting, like putting, if you are monitoring the behavior of the student. So do you have any tips for me to prepare for that, for the tactile things, for for teaching or helping the students out?
Sure. Braille
Mm-hmm.
is definitely a really great thing because it's great for labeling, great for, marking
Yes.
down paperwork. So Braille is definitely going to be your first key. As
Uh-huh.
far as marking and monitoring, for me, Excel. Excel can be used for a lot of things, and that's a good thing to use because again, it's accessible.
Yeah.
You can mark, you can set it up with an equation to mark like tallies and things like that. And you can also have it number those
Mm-hmm.
tallies so you don't have to go back and count each one. It'll number it automatically at the end. So it's just for
Okay.
me, it's just using Excel and Braille and other tactile things. So like each kid's bin has a different shape because they in my classroom, each kid has a color and a shape. So like
Yes.
one of my kids has a red circle and it's a circle and it's red. So I'll put R and circle or just have a circle there and like that's this student's and a square and that sort of thing. So it's just, making it accessible for what works for you.
Yeah, yeah, because there are sometimes like for the small kids, like they're learning how to cut different shapes, like, so we should have to know which shape are they're going to do or
Mm-hmm.
something.
And wiki sticks are really good in the classroom. I have a pack in my classroom, so my
Wiki
classes
sticks, okay. Mm-hmm.
also use cut shapes. So I would use that and then get the other people in the class to kind of line out that shape with the wiki sticks, and then the
Mm-hmm.
students just follow those wiki sticks around to cut that shape. So it
Ah,
kind of helps
okay.
them as well because it's a tactile feel for them as well. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Thank you for that.
no problem.
Great question. So I think we have time for one more quick question. So just say your name and I'll acknowledge you. You can ask your question. More questions.
Andrew Harmon, I just want to thank you both for coming tonight. This has been illuminating.
Oh, no problem. Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Tawana Davis.
All right. Tawana, what's your question?
I have a question. I worked in the medical field and I also have a bachelor's degree in human services. I've been blind since 2012. I also have another disability. Also, I have Moyer disease. So I'm asking, what do you all recommend me to do as in getting a job, or recommend how to go about mm, I just went to the center to brush up on my skills as well, but I just don't know I don't know what to ask the question because I want a job, but I haven't got in there yet, and I just don't know what I need to do to um get get an interview, I
So
guess.
Tawana, just so we can kind of so are you asking how to figure out what it is you want to do? Because it sounds like you're
Yes.
not in the, okay, gotcha. Okay.
I'll
So
answer that.
Terry, Liz,
I'll
okay,
answer
cool.
that. Try stuff. And a great thing about trying things is you get to know what you like, what you don't like, and there are a lot of opportunities for you to volunteer. Now, again, you're still going to be working on advocating. You still may have to, quote unquote, interview, but that gives you practice for a job later on. But volunteer. There are places. If you like animals, try the SPCA. If you want to work with kids, try like after school programs that need volunteers. If you like, just give it a try.
Yeah.
And again, there are so many volunteer opportunities and internship opportunities out there. Just go apply.
Yeah, or talk to somebody that you may know that say, I'm interested in such and such. Do you know anybody, who works in this field that I'm interested in? And try to network. Networking is also very key.
I agree. Definitely
Thank you.
networking is definitely key.
You're welcome.
I enjoyed
Cool.
talking to y'all. Y'all helped out a lot.
Glad we could help. Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tawana. All right, well, everyone, I want to take an opportunity to thank Terry and Liz for coming on tonight and sharing with us. I want to take an opportunity to thank Anil Lewis for serving as our Zoom host. I'm really sorry that we couldn't have Tom on, but we'll try to make sure we get something together so you all are able to learn about him, because he has an interesting job that I know he's super excited to share about with you all. Just remember, before you when this meeting closes, there will be a link you'll be provided. Please click on that link and go and complete our Where the Blind Work survey. Give us your feedback. Let us know what you learned during this session. And then also share your ideas on what career fields you would like to see highlighted. Also, if you didn't have a chance to get your question answered, please email us at employment@nfb.org, and we'll make sure that our panelists get your questions and we get those responses sent to you. So before we close out, Terry and Liz, any final thoughts before we say good night and see you next time?
The only thing I'll say is just follow your dreams. Don't let anyone tell you you can't do something. Just if you have the determination, but you don't have all the skills, find a way to get those skills and brush up on them. But never let anyone tell you you can't, because you can.
And I'm gonna piggyback off of that, Mr. PBS Terry. Yes, so I would just say, the interviewing process is hard, and that's for anybody. You may get, 50 no's, but all you need is one yes. And for me, Chimes was that one yes, because I went on interviews before and got through to like the second and third interview and didn't get the job. And, that's part of it. You learn from it and grow from it, but all you need is one yes. And
Absolutely.
that yes comes
Absolutely.
if you keep pushing forward.
Right. And sometimes you may not even get an interview, but you just got to keep pushing through, like Liz was saying. And I think I had two interviews, and the second one was the interview that at the place I'm working at now.
Well said. Thank you both. Everyone, good night, and we will see you next time.
National Federation of the Blind. Live the life you want.